December 2015, Beijing. A company called Ezubao stopped working, almost overnight. In the 18 months before it fell, it had pulled in close to 70 billion yuan, on some measures, near 10 billion US dollars, from more than 900,000 ordinary people across China. For many of them, it was their life savings. This was not some back alley operation. Ezubao advertised on China's state television, in subway stations, on buses. It looked like a polished, blue-chip finance company. But when police dug into its books, and I mean that literally, they used 2 excavators to unearth 1,200 ledgers, buried 6 meters underground, they found something staggering. On Ezubao's platform, 95% of the investment projects did not exist, and its founder, a factory kid who never really finished school, had already turned other people's savings into villas, diamonds, and the salaries of more than 100 female executives. According to reports, he had even gone to the Myanmar border to raise himself a private army. This is not a simple story about a con man. The colder question is this: why would 900,000 people hand nearly 70 billion yuan to a company that was fake? The answer isn't how clever he was. It's what made these people believe him. The story begins in 1982, in Bengbu, a gritty factory town in Anhui, one of China's poorer inland provinces, a world away from the Shanghai skyline outsider's picture. A boy named Ning. His family ran a tiny workshop, making the metal lock clasps that seal shipping containers. He was a poor student and dropped out as a teenager to work the floor. But this barely educated young man had a gift for business. In his early 20s, he took the factory over from his father, rode China's manufacturing boom, cans, packaging, screws, and within a few years was worth tens of millions. A villa, an imported car. By 2012, he was an industrialist worth around 1 billion yuan, with a string of respectable titles to match. A seat on the provincial political advisory body, an honorary university post. In China, these are badges of establishment respectability, a quiet signal that the system itself vouches for you. On the surface, he was a self-made success story. Remember that surface, because everything that follows depends on it. Around 2013, a craze was sweeping China. Peer-to-peer lending, P2P, online platforms that pool small savers' cash and lend it out for interest. In China, it exploded into a mania, thousands of platforms promising returns no bank could touch. Ning started one too. At first, he simply took a cut of the interest, a few tens of millions a year in profit. But it wasn't enough. What truly caught his eye was Ezubao, Alibaba's online savings product, which pulled in hundreds of billions almost overnight. What he saw wasn't, "I could build a savings product too." It was this: you can get millions of people to hand you their money. And this time, his thinking changed. He no longer wanted the sliver of interest in the middle. He wanted the principle itself. In 2014, he bought a small, unremarkable Beijing company and renamed it Ezubao. How did Ezubao get people to believe in it? Ning understood trust better than almost anyone. On the platform, he conjured up more than 300 companies and over 1,000 projects out of thin air, dressed them up as safe, guaranteed investments, paying 9 to 14.5% a year. Then he made the crucial move. He spent money to buy a national stamp of approval. 150 million yuan in advertising put Ezubao into prime time on CCTV. Now, this is the key. CCTV is China's state broadcaster. To an ordinary saver, an ad in that slot doesn't read as an ad. It reads as the government, quietly, vouching for you. Suddenly, Ezubao was everywhere. Television, subways, bus stops. Whenever you turned on the TV, it was there, promising the same thing: high returns, fully secured. On that wall-to-wall sense of legitimacy, Ezubao became the 4th largest P2P platform in the country. In just 18 months, more than 900,000 people and close to 70 billion yuan poured in. Most of them thought, this is a big company that's been on CCTV, run by a man who sits on a government body. What could possibly go wrong? What they didn't know was that the returns they were buying were never earned from any investment at all. At its core, Ezubao was a Ponzi scheme, where earlier investors are paid not from profits, but with the money of newer ones. Fresh money was used to pay the interest of existing investors, creating the illusion of something genuinely making money. As long as new money kept flowing in, the game could keep running. But the moment the new money slows, the whole thing collapses overnight. And on that day, the ones left holding nothing are the most ordinary families, the last ones in. Ning knew this perfectly well. He just didn't care, because he was busy spending it. The money didn't go into any scheme. The money became Ning's lifestyle. According to police and court records, he hired executives by their looks and spent on them without limit. The most famous was his number 2, the glamour CEO he built up, Jiang Min. For her, he raised the salary from 150,000 yuan a month to $500,000. He gave her an Audi, a villa worth over 100 million yuan on Sentosa, Singapore's luxury resort island, a 12 million yuan diamond. By some accounts, the cash and gifts he handed her totaled 550 million yuan. By some accounts, the executives he lavished money on numbered over 100. 9/10 of the staff were young women, required to wear luxury brands to work, all of it on his tab. In just 18 months, by some estimates, he burned through tens of billions of yuan, all of it the savings of 900,000 ordinary people, betting on a way out of their lives. Look closely. This was not a clever financial fraud. It was naked looting, dressed up as fintech. The money burned too fast. By early 2015, Ezubao had a gaping hole in its finances. Its 130,000 employees alone cost 600 million yuan a month in wages. Ning knew the game had, at most, 6 months left. So he began planning his exit, moving the money abroad. Europe, America, Japan, Korea. He concluded that economic criminals weren't safe there, too easily extradited home, until someone pointed him to one place, northern Myanmar. Specifically, the Wa State, a self-ruled borderland controlled by an ethnic militia, effectively beyond the reach of both Beijing and Myanmar's own government. A gray zone, long known as a haven for drugs and scams. According to reports, under the cover of building a Southeast Asia free trade zone, he poured 1 billion yuan into the region, opened a Southeast Asia United Bank, and there, at great cost, raised himself a private security force. At home, he hired over 100 bodyguards to escort him out of the country. A factory kid who had started out making lock clasps now genuinely believed he could take a few tens of billions, slip into a lawless land, and rule there as an emperor no one could touch. But he had underestimated one thing: those 900,000 people. In the second half of 2015, police across the country began receiving a flood of complaints. In November, multiple provinces opened investigations. On December 3rd, Ezubao collapsed. 5 days later, before he could flee, Ning and his executives, including Jiang Min, were arrested. On September 12, 2017, Ning was sentenced to life in prison, fined 100 million yuan, his assets seized. The executives around him got 3 to 15 years each. And the 900,000 investors? After a long, grinding recovery, they got back about a third. The rest, for most of them, was simply gone. It's easy to tell this as the story of a crazed con man, greedy, debauched, the architect of his own ruin. But that misses the part that should actually unsettle you. Ning's real talent was never the con. It was that he understood exactly where trust comes from. The CCTV ad, the government title, the university post, the foreign joint venture. These were supposed to be markers of credibility. One by one, he bought them and put them on. To an ordinary person, just burned by the stock market, distrustful of the banks, those markers were the bait. They weren't trusting Ning. They were trusting the system behind those markers. And the question Ezubao really leaves us with is this: when credibility itself can be bought, can be performed, can we still trust the signals we use to decide what is safe? 70 billion yuan, 900,000 people, 95% of it, fake. He didn't invent any new kind of finance. He invented just one thing: How to turn trust into a business. Welcome to Empire Motive. We look for the real motives behind business empires.